What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Wake and J College Football Show. Regular season is officially over. We are into conference championship weekend, so this is going to be a shorter episode as we only have 4 games to cover. Now, we do have a lot of news to get into, so that will take up some time, but this is going to be a relatively short episode. Um, and that's pretty much what we're doing today. News. We'll talk about the college football playoff. Um, Conference championship previews. I have a few bets that I'm going to give out. Powerful moneyline parlay, but I don't have much to choose from that one. Um, and then, yeah, send you on your way. So let's not waste any more time. Let's have a good wake and bake sesh and get right into it. Like I mentioned, we got a lot of news to get into, and mainly this news is going to be coaching carousel because honestly, pretty much right after I ended the live stream on Sunday, um, all these announcements just started flooding in. Kiffin going to LSU, Florida hired a coach, Auburn hired a coach, Arkansas hired a coach. Kentucky fired their coach. So we're going to get into it. There's a lot to get into. Um, yeah, it was a crazy Sunday. So, and of course, it happened right after I ended the live. So we'll start running through just every coaching change that happened this weekend, essentially. So, really, every single Power Four team that fired their coach this weekend or earlier this year has now filled that vacancy, except for Penn State. We'll get into it here in a second, but my goodness, what an absolute disaster. So, we'll start with Florida. Florida hired John Summerall from Tulane. I can understand why Florida fans may or may not like that choice, seeing as Billy Napier also came from Group of Five, so maybe they are hesitant about that one. But it can't be worse. Let's just say that. It can't be worse than what Billy Napier was, but who knows? Maybe it will be. Um, I really don't have an opinion one way or another on that hire. I do, moving forward, have some opinions on all these other hires, but the John Summerall hire, I don't know. I'm sure it's a good hire. I don't really have a thought on that one. Auburn hired Alex Golish from USF. Love this hire. I also think I saw that he's keeping DJ Durkin on staff, which some might say is a risky move because, I mean, going into that Iron Bowl and even after the Iron Bowl, a lot of people thought DJ Durkin was going to be the head coach next year. Uh, and then all of a sudden, boom, um, they got Alex Golish, and he, from what I saw, is keeping DJ Durkin on staff, which I mean, it's the guy who was potentially going to be the coach, has been a head coach in the past. Do you really want to keep him on the staff? He is a great defensive coordinator. I kind of like the move keeping him on there because you already had a good defense at Auburn. You'll probably have a good one again next year. Alex Golish, we saw what he did at Tennessee. We saw what he did at USF. I like this hire for Auburn a lot. Um, I guess we'll get into it right away, right off the bat here. LSU hired Lane Kiffin officially. And wow, there was a lot of just a disaster around that. So Lane Kiffin, I mean, it's Lane. He wants all the attention on himself and just was delaying the announcement, delaying the announcement, delaying it. And then it started to come out that, oh, hey, he's actually getting hired at LSU. Then it comes out that he's threatening his staff, saying, if you're not on the plane when it lands, you're not going to have a job with me, and trying to essentially sabotage Ole Miss moving forward going into the playoffs. Here's my thoughts on it. People are going to hate Lane Kiffin for it. I am not an LSU fan. I am not an Ole Miss fan. I am kind of a Lane Kiffin fan. So, as an outsider looking in, peak entertainment. I loved every second of it. I think this people are hating on Lane for trying to sabotage Ole Miss, yada yada yada. Here's what I think was really kind of going on, where and this is, by the way, me not having any inside knowledge or anything like that. You got Lane Kiffin who worked his ass off to get this team to be 11-1, in position for the playoff for the first time, but LSU came open, and man, he really wants that LSU job, but he also wants to coach in the playoffs. So I think what was going on is he did want to take that LSU job, and he still wanted to finish out the season because some of these coaches that we're getting into, John Summerall and a few others we'll talk about here in a second, are staying with their teams through the end of the season. So through conference championship games, through the playoff if they happen to make the playoff. That's what Lane Kiffin wanted. Ole Miss was not going to allow that. And so, did he overreact by then trying to sabotage Ole Miss moving forward? Yes. I think he had a little bit of a change of heart there. As we saw, Charlie Weiss Jr. did get on the plane with Ole Miss, but was allowed to now return back to Ole Miss or got on the plane to LSU and then has now returned back to Ole Miss to, coach them through the playoffs. So, um, I think it was just a little bit of a overreaction, a little bit of an anger action by Lane Kiffin. I think he slept on it, thought about it, probably wouldn't have done that again if he had a do over. But it is what it is. Lane's gonna lane. Just peak entertainment, though it really was. Now, people want to blame Lane Kiffin for delaying this as long as he did. Part of the reason I feel like he was delaying it is because he was trying to figure that out and work it out with Ole Miss so that he could still coach. And people are trying to say, well, he screwed them over by not giving them a chance to hire another coach. They weren't going to have really another chance anyways. With Lane deciding on LSU, teams were moving fast on other teams. Even if he had made his decision earlier in the week, Ole Miss is still behind the eight ball. Throughout this whole process, everybody, including, like, there's no way they didn't know. Everybody knew Lane sent his family to check out Gainesville. Everybody knew that he was checking out LSU. Everybody knew he was being interviewed for both. It was not a secret. He was very transparent with Ole Miss. If you're an Ole Miss fan and you hate him, I completely understand. If you are an outsider looking in and you hate him and think he's a terrible person, I don't know. I think you need to calm down. But because Ole Miss was so late in the game now of hiring a coach, they did promote defensive coordinator Pete Golding. I mean, they didn't really have a choice, honestly. So can't hate the hire, don't love it, but it's one of those ones where it's a relatively cheap contract, I guess. The buyout is very doable, so that if a year or two from now you're not loving the hire, then you can fire him and hire who you would rather hire over him. It could be a rebuild year or two for Ole Miss here. Oklahoma State hired Eric Morris from North Texas. Love this hire. Eric Morris was the coach at Incarnate Word, was the OC at Washington State for a season before taking over the head coaching job at North Texas. For those who don't remember, Cam Ward, number one overall pick, Tennessee Titans, who finished his career at Miami. Before that, he was at Washington State. Do you know where he was before Washington State? Incarnate Word with Eric Morris. Eric Morris followed him and Cam Ward went to Washington State. Obviously, Cam Ward was there for 2 years. Eric Morris left after one, but I love this hire for Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to be a one season turnaround, but I mean 2 seasons and they should be competing for the Big 12. Virginia Tech hired James Franklin from Penn State. I mean, we in some of these, I've already kind of touched on this one briefly already, but still have to mention it. Virginia Tech did hire James Franklin. Love the hire. Think it's going to be a great hire. That's all I got to say. Cal hired Oregon's defensive coordinator Tosh Lepoy. I don't know if I said that correctly. I mean, I guess it's a good hire. You went from, but I don't know. I don't love how you went from Justin Wilcox, a defensive minded head coach, to now Tosh Lepoy, who is also a defensive head coach. I feel like, especially if you want, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I feel like if you really want to keep Jaron Kiapi Sangapulatele, you gotta bring in a QB guru, bring in some sort of offensive minded head coach. I don't know. I don't know if I love this hire. Stanford, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know anything about Stanford's hire, and I guess I shouldn't be shocked that they went to the NFL ranks to hire their coach. I mean, it's Andrew Luck. He brought in what was can't even think of who they had this year. I want to say Chuck Pagano, but that's not right. Frank Reich. There we go. They brought in Tavita Pritchard, Washington Commanders QB coach. I mean, Did not see that one coming. I guess I didn't even know who they were going to be in the market for, honestly. I have nothing to say on this hire. I have no idea. Oregon State, they are hiring Jamarcus. I guess this is probably the last. I'll just say this right now. This is the last season that I'm going to be covering Oregon State or Washington State. Not that I really did a whole lot of covering of them this season, anyways. Uh, I still consider them a Power Four teams, even though they're not in a Power Four conference anymore. Um, Next season, now that the Pac-12 is revitalized and there's going to be a lot more teams in it now, I'm going to consider them Group of Five, or in this case now Group of Six. I'm not going to be covering Oregon State moving forward. But they hired Jamarcus Shepard, Alabama co-offensive coordinator. Sure, I guess. I don't know. Michigan State hired Pat Fitzgerald, who has been out for what 2 years now, 3 years now. Was Northwestern's head coach for the longest time. Um, got fired because of a hazing scandal, which I guess has now been acquitted. He is found innocent in all of that, and so now is the head coach at Michigan State. Here's the thing with Michigan State firing. Man, I am having a lot of brain farts today. I can't even think of his name now. Jonathan Smith. Wow, I am so sorry, guys. Um, I didn't know. I found out that Jonathan Smith got fired because I saw the headline that Pat Fitzgerald had been hired at Michigan State. That's how I found out Jonathan Smith was fired. His firing just got buried under everything that I didn't even see it until I saw Pat Fitzgerald was hired. So I love this hire for Michigan State. I think Pat Fitzgerald is a phenomenal coach. I mean, the fact that he was not every year, there were some down years, especially towards the end there. Uh, to win at a school like Northwestern is impressive, and he did. He won, and it wasn't just one season; it was multiple seasons of winning at Northwestern. I like Pat Fitzgerald as a coach. I think this is a great hire for Michigan State. Um, Arkansas hired Ryan Silverfield out of Memphis. Really don't have an opinion one way or another. I think Arkansas is one of those programs where it's going to take a special coach to turn that around. I'm not saying, I guess, I don't know. Maybe Ryan Silverfield is that special coach, and we just haven't seen that unlocked yet. I don't love the hire. I don't hate the hire. It is what it is. UCLA hired Bob Chesney out of James Madison. Again, don't watch a lot of Group of Five, but I do know some about, like, Alex Golish, a little bit about Sumrall, Eric Morris, but I do not know anything about Bob Chesney other than he took over after Kurt Signetti left. Uh, and JMU has been a great team since even after Kirk Signetti left, and credit to Bob Chesney for that. I guess this is a great hire for UCLA. I just feel like similar to Arkansas, UCLA is a program right now that you just probably don't, unless you're wanting to make that jump from Group of Five and get that paycheck to be the coach of a Big Ten team. Man, I wouldn't want to touch that job. Kentucky fired Mark Stoops, and they hired Will Stein, Oregon's offensive coordinator. Love this hire, especially if you want to keep Cutter Boley. You get rid of Mark Stoops. He just has fallen flat the last few years. He's also a defensive-minded head coach. Bring in Will Stein, jumpstart this offense that for Kentucky that has just been abysmal for years. Really, I mean, they have a good year here and there running the ball, but really not a great offense. Um, Cutter Boley might be able to take that next step now under Will Stein. I like this hire for Kentucky. And then finally, well, I guess not finally because we still have to touch on one school, Kansas State. They did not fire Chris Kleinman. He, I guess, is retiring. I guess he's sick of it. I don't know, really. I didn't see his reasoning. I didn't look into it. I saw that he was retiring. It sounds like they are going to be hiring offensive coordinator from Texas A&M, Colin Klein, which, for those who don't know, Colin Klein was at Kansas State, I believe, actually as a coordinator, but people will remember him most as the quarterback for Kansas State back in the day. So I actually really like that hire. I mean, I liked Chris Kleiman as a head coach. Obviously, Kansas State wasn't great this season. They were decent last year. I liked Chris Kleiman, but I also like Colin Klein. I think this is a good hire if he is going to be the one to step down, especially a guy who's familiar with the program. Okay, Penn State. I don't think I've ever seen such a botched job at hiring a coach. Every single coach that they have talked to has gotten an extension or signed with another team or whatnot. It's just absolutely botched. For those who weren't following the Kalani Sitake drama this week, just beautiful. Crumble Cookie getting involved. There was a reporter for who covers BYU who, after BYU extended Salon Sataki, my goodness, I am struggling tonight. After they extended him, sent Crumble Cookie order to Penn State's AD. Love it. Love the pettiness. It's just an absolutely botched job by Penn State. They were the first team to fire their coach so that they could get a jump start on the hiring process and hire a guy, the guy that they wanted. And then they just keep striking out, coach after coach after coach, just strikeout after strikeout. I mean, Josh Pate has been trying to push for Matt Campbell to be hired as Penn State's head coach for ever since the firing happened. And you just have not really seen Matt Campbell's name thrown out there. Well, now it's finally getting thrown out there. I've seen some rumors now that players are following Matt Campbell on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. There's some momentum now behind Matt Campbell from other people not named Josh Pate at this point. So maybe it's finally going to be Matt Campbell, and maybe they finally get a head coach. Which I will say this: if they do hire Matt Campbell, I do not hate that hire. I don't think that's a terrible hire. I've seen, oh goodness, guys, I'm still struggling. The interim right now, Terry Smith. I can't. I'm just having a lot of brain farts today. It's been a long weekend, a long week. Um, I've seen some push for him to be the next head coach or to be promoted. I don't know enough about him to have an opinion one way or another. But if they do go with Matt Campbell, that hire I would love. That honestly should be it when it comes to the coaching carousel. I don't imagine that there's going to be anybody else fired or hired at this point. Mike Norvell's back for another season, which, let's be honest, he's going to get fired next year. He's the next coach to go. So Bill Belichick's probably going to be on the hot seat a little bit next year. Um, but yeah, this was a crazy coaching carousel. It did not disappoint. And I mean, until Penn State finally has someone officially hired, it's still going right now. All right, college football playoff committee released their most recent rankings. I'll just start off with the two teams that got left out. First two teams out, BYU and Miami. Thank God Miami's out. I don't want them in the playoff now. You can make that same argument for Notre Dame. Fine, whatever. I'll listen to it. Don't really care. BYU, though, they do deserve to be in the playoff. I'm also not going to listen to the Vandy arguments. Would I prefer Vandy over a team like Miami? For sure. Over a team like BYU? No. Over a team like Notre Dame? Toss up, honestly. Um, but the way they have it laid out right now, top four seeds, again, no shock: Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech. So those four would be receiving byes. They got Oregon at 5, Ole Miss at 6, A&M at 7, Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10. And here's the cowardice of the college football playoff committee, which I guess they're not cowards for this necessarily, but I think it is. Just put their names in here. For the 11 seed, they have conference champion number 4. And for the 12 seed, they have conference champion number 5. They didn't even have the balls to put Virginia in there or Duke in there or Tulane or whoever. No, they just put conference champion 4 and 5. Just cop out right there. So based on the way that they have it laid out, obviously Ohio State would have a bye. They would host the winner of Oklahoma and Alabama. And I would take Alabama in that rematch, but the way that Alabama's been playing lately, I don't know that I would for sure. But I guess I'll say Alabama, which I have Ohio State beating whoever wins that matchup. Indiana on the bye, they would host the winner of A&M and Notre Dame. A&M Notre Dame rematch. I think I would take Notre Dame, honestly. Georgia has a bye, hosting the winner of Ole Miss and conference champion number 4. And Texas Tech has a bye and who would host the winner of Oregon and conference champion number 5. I am definitely taking Oregon over whoever conference champion number 5 is. I probably would also take Ole Miss over whoever conference champion number 4 is, if I'm going to be completely honest. Um, Indiana, Notre Dame, I would probably take Notre Dame. Georgia versus Ole Miss rematch, I would probably take Georgia again. And then Texas Tech versus Oregon, I would take Oregon in a heartbeat in that one. Um, and then that would be what? So Oregon would face Ohio State. And that one, honestly, for me, it depends on how healthy Oregon is, but I think I could take Oregon in that one. Indiana hosting, or sorry, Notre Dame hosting Georgia, a rematch from last season. I don't know on that one. That one's also tough. I think I would take Georgia just because I do think Georgia's starting to hit their peak right now. So that would give us what? Either an Ohio State Georgia national championship or an Oregon Georgia national championship. And I honestly, if you had to ask me who are the 3 scariest teams right now in college football, it is Ohio State, Georgia, and Oregon, in my opinion. So the fact that those 3 I have meeting up as potential national title can matchup, um, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's really a toss up for me if I pick Oregon or Ohio State. I do think it would be Georgia based on the way that they have it laid out right now. I think Georgia would make the national title, playing Ohio State or Oregon, and then from there, I really would have to think about it, but that might be a coin flip game. All right, enough hypotheticals. Well, yeah, enough hypotheticals. Let's get into conference championship games. We'll start with the Big 12 championship game because I don't want to be disrespectful because I am a BYU believer and I am a Bear Bachmeyer believer, but I don't think this is going to be the worst game of the 4 this weekend. Number 11 BYU is 11-1. They're facing Texas Tech, and this is a rematch, by the way. We just saw this like a month ago. Texas Tech, number 4 team, they are also 11-1, and they are also 12.5 point favorites in this one. Uh, Texas Tech won the previous meeting 29-7, and honestly, you could argue they should have won by more than that. They had to settle for like 5 field goals. Um, Shout out to BYU's defense, very much so a bend don't break defense that day. Um, Granted, Texas Tech did have a lot of great starting field position. BYU's offense had terrible starting field position the whole game. They also turned the ball over 3 times. Bear Bachmeyer, 188 passing yards on 38 attempts, and 2 turnovers. The run game for BYU, which is their strength, non-existent. 27 carries, 67 yards, no touchdowns. It really was a game that Texas Tech should have won by a lot more. So credit to BYU's defense for, again, bending but not breaking. Since that Texas Tech loss, or that loss to Texas Tech, BYU has played UCF and West Virginia, winning both games. Sorry, Texas Tech, since beating BYU, has played Central Florida and West Virginia, winning by a lot. They beat UCF 48-9, West Virginia 49-0. BYU, on the other hand, has faced TCU, Cincinnati, UCF, for the most part, winning those games relatively easily, looking good in the process. I want to say that BYU is going to put up a better performance this time around. But all right, let me just run through Texas Tech's offense and defense real quick, some stats for them, because it really is they. Yes, I know they're all bought and paid for with oil money. They really are good. Their defense is 3rd in scoring, 6th in total yardage, 1st in rushing, 5th in sacks, 10th in third down defense. Only 3 teams have run it for more than 100 yards against them: Utah, Houston, and Kansas State. Only 2 teams have hit 20 points against them: Arizona State with 26, Kansas State with 20. It's a dominant defense. and I just don't think BYU has enough firepower offensively to win this game against that defense. Do I think they can score more than 7 points? Sure, yeah, I do. I think they could score 14, 17 points, something like that. I don't think more than 17 though is doable for their offense. Um, Defense, I mean, BYU does have a good defense. Don't get me wrong. But this Texas Tech offense, I'm just going to run through some more stats. Third in scoring, fourth in total yardage, ninth in passing, sixth on third down conversions for offense. Only two teams have held them to less than 30 points. It was Arizona State and BYU, who held them to 29, so barely under 30. This might be another game that maybe BYU's defense is bend don't break, forces Texas Tech to settle for field goals. Maybe Texas Tech misses a few of those field goals. Uh, I think BYU is. I think BYU is better offensively this time around. I do think that they're better than 7 points. I don't think they're going to have as much terrible field position luck that they had last time, starting field position. I don't think they're going to turn the ball over 3 times. Um, but I still take Texas Tech in this one. Number 3, Georgia. Number 9, Alabama. Georgia's 11-1. Alabama 10-2. Alabama 2.5 point underdogs in this one. I think they opened as the favorites. I would have to double check that. But again, this is another rematch. We already saw these two meet up this year. Kirby Smart is 1-7 against Alabama, and I think after this weekend he's going to be 2-7. I think that this is a game that Georgia is going to win, just based on how both of these teams are trending. When they met up earlier this year, Bama won 24-21. It was a game that Georgia really struggled to sustain any drives, especially in that first half. Um, Alabama got out to a 24-14 lead going into halftime and then did not score the rest of the game. And Georgia, I think they're really kicking themselves from this game because it's in the fourth quarter, down 3, 4th and 1 at Alabama's 8. And they, instead of kicking a field goal to tie it, decided to go for it. And I think it was Cash Jones, which I don't know why Cash Jones is your running back of choice, gets stuffed for like a 3-yard loss. Alabama gets the ball back. Georgia's unable to score after that, lose the game 24-21. Um, After that game, Georgia was all right for a little bit. And then I guess like really for the last month, the offense has been good and been solid pretty much all year, but it feels like the defense took another step in the month of November. Whereas you watch Alabama and the defense has been fine. The offense has been one dimensional all year, but it hasn't mattered that they've been one dimensional. And I've said this for, I mean, I guess months now at this point. Alabama's run game is terrible. It's just not good. And at some point, it's going to bite them in the butt. It's just a matter of when is that going to be. And I think it's this weekend. I think against Georgia, them being so one dimensional, seeing the passing game struggling as of late. Ty Simpson just has not looked great. Ryan Williams has absolutely disappeared. Um, I think we see Georgia win this game. I think we see Alabama's offensive struggles continue. Again, because they are one dimensional, they're not going to get anything going in the run game. Passing game has struggled. Give me Georgia on this one. It feels like Alabama. Like as while it seems like Georgia's starting to just hit their peak, it feels like Alabama's on the wrong side of their peak. Um, Man, this next game is just one that should not be happening, and I know the leaders of the ACC are just upset that it's going this way. 7-5 Duke taking on number 17 Virginia, who is 10-2. Virginia is a 3.5 point favorite in this one. And again, this is another rematch. These are two teams that already faced each other this year, and Virginia won that matchup 34-10 or 34-17. Uh, in that game, Virginia held the ball for nearly 36 minutes. Uh, They had over 500 yards of offense. They were 60% on third and fourth down, and they led 31-3 going into that fourth quarter. This was a game that was over by that point. Duke just struggled. Now, all season, Duke's defense has been terrible, which is so shocking because it's Manny Diaz. He always has good defenses. So the fact that Duke's defense is so bad is shocking. And they were bad in the meeting earlier this year. Where it was shocking, though, is that Duke's offense has been great all season, but they were terrible against Virginia. Four of their first five drives to start the game were three and out, and I think the sixth drive was like 5 plays and a punt. They were 4 of 15 on third down in this game. It was a terrible game for Duke. It's a game that I think with this rematch we will see a better Duke this time around. Defensively, probably not, but at least offensively. Um, like I mentioned, Duke's defense just so shockingly bad. 98th in scoring, 131st pass defense, 54th run defense, which is fine. 111th in total yardage, 126th on third down, 128th in the red zone. It's it's bad, and it shouldn't be this bad for a Manny Diaz coach team. And honestly, this is just again, I go back to it is so embarrassing that Duke is representing the ACC in the title game. And here's the worst part about it: Duke can win this game. They honestly can. Now, there's only one way that Duke can win this game because it's not going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be a shootout. That is the only way that Duke's going to win this game is if they are able to get into a shootout and win in a shootout. Because I just don't think their defense is going to stop Virginia. And I do think Duke's offense is going to give us a much better performance than they did last time. Now, where this game was won and lost last time is also where it could be won and lost this time. Virginia has the number two, third, is the second overall third down defense in the country. Uh, and Duke is not good on third down offensively. And that was the story of their earlier meeting this year, where Duke just could not convert on third down. Virginia, again, has a great third down defense. Uh, but Duke is surprisingly good at converting on fourth down. So for some reason, third downs, they just cannot do it. But they're like the fifth best team at converting fourth down. So little strange there. But if that same story plays out where Duke cannot convert on third downs, Virginia is going to win this game in a blowout. But if Duke can at least, I mean, get more than one in every three or four third down conversions, uh, it should be a much better showing. It should be a much closer game. I still have Virginia winning this game. So I pick Virginia, but I'm rooting for Duke because I want ultimate chaos. All right, final game. Big Ten championship, number one versus number two. Both teams are undefeated. Ohio State, Indiana. Ohio State 4.5 point favorites. No team has scored 17 points on Ohio State this year. And I believe that Indiana will be the first. I don't think Ohio State's going to go the full season with not allowing that, even though they've already done it for the regular season. Now that we're getting into championships and playoffs, somebody's going to score 17 points. And I think it's going to be Indiana. Now, that being said, I don't think Indiana's going to score much more than 17. If they might even just cap out at 17. I wouldn't be shocked by that, but I do think they can at least get to 17. Now, this is going to be hands down the best defense that Indiana has faced, and on the other side, this is going to be not only the best defense, but the best offense that Ohio State has faced. Um, I do think that Ohio State's going to be able to shut down Indiana. Um, Iowa Iowa was able to shut down Indiana both yardage wise and points wise, but Iowa just doesn't have the offense to back up that great defense. Penn State shut them down yardage wise, points wise for most of the game, but still couldn't quite pull out the win. I think Ohio State will be able to not only shut them down points wise, but yardage wise, and they also have the offense to back it up to then win that game outright. Um, I guess where I'm concerned for Ohio State, which I probably shouldn't be at this point, is Julian Sain because, again, he's a redshirt freshman going up against the best defense he's had to face all year. I mean, the dude has just gotten better every single week. Uh, and I feel like he's probably gonna be fine. Honestly, he's got so many weapons to throw to. He'll be fine. I guess where I would be most concerned now that I've talked myself out of Julian Sain is if Ohio State can't get the run game going and have to rely solely on Julian Sain, then it could be troublesome for them. Um, I think this is going to be much closer. Like when we saw Ohio State and Indiana last year, obviously Indiana is a much better team this year than last year. And last year Ohio State beat them 38-15. I think this game is going to be closer than that, but I do still think that Ohio State wins this game. Some bets for the weekend. I'm not going to give a five favorites. I'm just going to run through them all. Because again, only four games to pick from. BYU under 314.5 total yards at minus 114. Ohio State to cover minus 4.5. Ohio State team total over 26.5 at minus 114. Give me Georgia to cover at minus 2.5, minus 115. Give me Alabama under 268.5 receiving yards at minus 114, and Virginia Duke over 57.5 at minus 115. I probably we'll throw it out there. Give me a parlay of Georgia third and fourth quarter spreads of minus 1.5 at plus 363. I have bet Georgia fourth quarter and Georgia third quarter a few times this year, and it always seems to be if I bet the third quarter, the fourth quarter wins, and vice versa. Or if I don't bet them at all, they both win. So we're gonna parlay it this week, see what happens. And then the Power 4 Moneyline parlay. I mean, this is really kind of boring, and I do apologize. Texas Tech, Georgia, Virginia, and Ohio State, all the favorites to win, plus 375. Um, yeah, nothing too exciting with that one. This number was a little bigger when I originally did it. I think it was one of these lines changed. Somebody was closer to being an underdog than they are now. I just don't think any of the underdogs are going to win, unfortunately. But yeah, that is my conference championship preview. That is my coaching carousel, I guess, kind of recap. Um, I will be back. I haven't. Okay, so not sure how we're going to do this on Sunday yet. If I am going to go live at 10:30 Eastern, like I always do, and then or have been doing, and then go live again after the playoff is announced, or if I just wait and live react to the playoff after that's announced and then recap conference championship week. I haven't really decided how we're going to do that yet. Stay tuned. I will right now just bank on 10:30 a.m. I'm going to go live. If anything changes, I will post something to Twitter, social media of some sort. So keep an eye out for that. But right now, bank on 10:30 Eastern Sunday, recap conference championship week, and then probably go live again for the playoff. Thank you all for joining me. Enjoy the football this weekend. Happy betting, and I will be back on Sunday.